Hey y'all, Netta Marie the Doula here. So I wanted to come in and talk about having Doula Meet and Greet sessions. So here in St. Louis, they have like Meet Your Doula events where you go out and it's kind of like a speed dating type of setup where families come in and you sit at the table and they rotate. So this past week, it was actually like last month, I went to a doula meet and greet, and it was really exciting. It was my first one to ever attend, and I was super nervous. I didn't know what to like bring or what to say, but I Googled so much. Then I ended up asking my doula mentor, like, hey, can you help me with this? You know, like kind of asking her thoughts on how I would look to the families, you know? Because you don't want to seem like a novice, but at the same time, you don't want to appear to be overly confident to a point where it's kind of like you're like gloating on yourself. So I went to this meet and greet. It was about 6 doulas there, and it was a lot of fun. Only because I knew the doulas that were there, but then not only that, I felt like whatever family that I was meant to support as their doula, it would happen. And if it didn't happen, it was okay. So going into that, I was like, all right, cool. Like, I know for a fact, if it's meant, it'll happen. If it's not meant, it's okay. Finish, you know, doing however you did before. I went there and I met with 4 different families, and it was really, really exciting. I realized that I was nervous, but I also realized that what really was beneficial was the fact that I asked them questions. So not only did they interview me, but I interviewed them. So I wanted to kind of give new doulas and also those who are looking for doulas kind of like some tips. Like, number 1 would be, when you go to a doula meet and greet, is to have questions. So I also, for the family, to ask questions, but also for the doula, some of the questions I asked the families were, what are you looking for in a doula? How do you like to be supported? When you, you know, where do you live? Because that radius of wherever they stay is important. Because me being in a metropolitan area, I may not necessarily have the capacity or the resources to get out to rural areas as much as I may want to, you know? Or like, for example, I had a family who was here all the way from 2 hours away. So it's like, do I have that capacity to actually go, realistically, to go and support you? So if you're 2 hours away, that means that I may have to spend the night, you know, and stay with you. I can't just like, you know, come support you and leave. I gotta stay with you if you go into labor, no matter how long that labor lasts. So being realistic about that. So asking questions, definitely. Another tip that I would say for doulas would be to gloat on yourself. Like, say what you have done or haven't done, but you're intrigued about doing it. Like, I had a few families ask me questions that I didn't necessarily have an answer for, but I let them know that I'm open to supporting families. One of the questions, for example, was there was a same-sex couple that came, and they had asked me, had I ever supported a same-sex couple before? And I let them know that I hadn't, but that I'm open to supporting the mom and the partner in whatever capacity within the scope of my doula role. Period. And that was an opportunity for me to realize, like, hey, I'm not gonna know everything. I'm not gonna be able to do everything, or I can't always say that I know or have done everything, and that's okay. So being able to tell them that, but then feeling confident about it, like, hey, I haven't, but I'm open to it, and being honest. I think the a third and last tip would be realistic. So a family asked me, I do prenatal, birth and postpartum sessions or doula work. And one of the families asked me about my postpartum work. Now, for some people know that I am a full-time employee as well. So I have a daytime job from 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or whatever. And then I also do my doula work on the side. So when she asked me about my postpartum work, I could have told her, like, yeah, I do postpartum work and left it at that. But instead, for my own health, you know, my boundaries, I was like, yes, I do postpartum work, but this is how I operate. Being able to say that to them was really good, because I'm saying, hey, I would love to support you in your postpartum journey, but this is how it is for me. And I think that opened up an avenue for them to understand if I fit with them or not. Because it would kind of suck if I say, yeah, I do, and then they ask me to be their postpartum doula, and then I'm like, oh yeah, but this is what I can and can't do. So I think that's a question, you know, also for those looking for a doula is, you know, how accessible are you? How available are you? You know, can I call you whenever? Are you available whenever I need you during my postpartum journey? Great questions to ask. So all that happened, and it was a great event, had a great time. We didn't know if who wanted to, you know, who the families chose to be their doula. We didn't know any of that. And yesterday I got a phone call, and one of the families contacted me and asked me to be their doula. And this was from the Doula Meet and Greet. So as nervous as I was, as unprepared but kind of prepared I was, it still turned out to be a great experience when I left there. And I was positive about it. Regardless if people came or not, I was putting myself out there as a new doula, you know. I've only had 10 births. Well, I've had 10 births so far, which is really, really exciting. But it's like other people that have had so many other births. So it was just a really great experience to be able to say, hey, I've done this, but I'm so open to doing much, much more. So for that, I just wanted to jump in and let people know, like, make sure you go to Doula Meet and Greets. Go out there, get your face out there. Also, make sure that you gloat on yourself. Make sure you tell them, like, hey, yeah, this is what I've done. Even if you haven't done much, you know, or even if you've done a few things that you can gloat on yourself. Also, make sure that you ask questions. Asking questions is important. It's so imperative. It really builds that connection. Like, are we connected? Are we not connected? Really? And then also just making sure that you are honest and realistic about your expectations and what you can offer to a family. So I just wanted to hop on. It's exciting being a new doula out here in the trenches, in this big city. So I'll tune in another time, but see ya.